More than 200 people were reported killed in a single overnight incident in Nigeria's Benue state. Yet outside the region, very few people even heard about it. There were no extended breaking news segments, no constant updates across global networks, and no sustained conversation that lasted beyond a brief moment. This video is not about shock value. It is about what happens when suffering becomes invisible, when entire communities experience loss, and the world quietly moves on. Stay with me until the end, because what happened here explains something much bigger than one tragic event, and understanding it matters more now than ever before. Benue State is located in Nigeria's Middle Belt, a region that has long faced security challenges linked to displacement, resource conflict, and instability. For years, families across this area have been forced to leave their homes, abandon farms, and search for any place that might offer safety. Many never crossed an international border, yet lost everything they owned. These are known as internally displaced persons, and in many cases, they rely on community spaces, aid centers, or places of worship simply because there is nowhere else to go. According to reports from local authorities, humanitarian observers, and community leaders, a large group of displaced families had gathered within a church compound, believing it offered shelter and familiarity. These were parents, children, and elderly individuals who had already escaped danger once before. They believed this location would allow them to rest, regroup, and survive another day. Then, during the night, an attack occurred that would change everything. Details from the region indicate that armed individuals entered the area and carried out a coordinated assault that resulted in the deaths of an estimated 200 people. Survivors described confusion, fear, and chaos as families were separated and lives were lost. What makes this incident especially devastating is not only the number of casualties, but who the victims were. These were not fighters or political actors. They were displaced civilians, families already living with loss, people who had nowhere else to go. Many observers emphasize that this incident reflects a broader pattern of insecurity affecting parts of Nigeria, particularly in regions where communities feel vulnerable and underprotected. Faith leaders and local residents have repeatedly raised concerns about repeated attacks on rural communities, especially those already displaced. At the same time, responsible voices stress the importance of careful language, reminding the world that violence is carried out by specific groups and individuals, not entire populations or faiths. What followed the incident was a familiar pattern: a brief wave of attention, a few reports, and then silence. No long-term global discussion. No sustained pressure. No lasting spotlight. For the families who survived, the story did not end when headlines disappeared. Survivors were displaced yet again, left to grieve, rebuild, and ask whether anyone outside their region would remember what happened. Some survived not because they were stronger or faster, but because circumstances spared them. These individuals now carry trauma, unanswered questions, and the heavy burden of rebuilding life from nothing once more. Humanitarian groups issued statements. Faith communities around the world shared messages of prayer and support. But beyond those circles, attention quickly faded. This is what many experts describe as the deeper crisis. Not only the violence itself, but the way repeated suffering becomes normalized, overlooked, or forgotten. When stories like this are ignored, patterns repeat. When communities feel unseen, trust disappears. When loss fades from public memory, it returns again without warning. This is not only a story about Nigeria. It is a story about how the world chooses which tragedies deserve sustained attention, and which ones quietly disappear. The people who lost their lives in Benue State were not statistics or symbols. They were human beings. Remembering them means refusing to let silence be the final chapter. If this story reached you, take a moment to reflect on it. Share it thoughtfully. Support humanitarian efforts where possible. And remember that awareness is often the first step toward lasting change. Some stories do not need outrage to matter. They need witnesses. If you watch this video to the end, say a word of prayer for this family.